Let's look at a two-tailed hypothesis problem using T. And you're going to have my pledge that we'll go through 4 different permutations of problems with different sample sizes. Sometimes the sample size corresponds to a degree of freedom that's not on the table, and we'll handle those things. It'll go just fine. So here's a two-tailed hypothesis process using T. Consider Netflix minutes among Netflix subscribers, mean of 58 minutes a day. A sample of 144 people known to have openness to experience shows a mean number of watching minutes of 49 with a standard deviation of 16. We hypothesize that openness affects watching minutes, right? Now we're saying it affects it. I'm not saying it reduces it or increases the number of minutes, but it just affects it, which is one of those sort of artificial sort of two-tail scenarios that we have. What are the null and alternate hypotheses for a two-tailed test, alpha of O5? Please do spell those out. So now again, we don't have 143 degrees of freedom in the table. We're going to have to remember how we handle that. We're going to have to go down to 120 if you'll remember. Let me explore the hypotheses again. This is very similar to what we did in chapter 8. According to the null, having openness doesn't mean anything with respect to the Netflix viewing minutes. It doesn't affect it. Now, the word affect is used loosely here because this is a quasi-independent variable. But nonetheless, it just makes no difference whether one has openness or not with respect to the viewing minutes. Conversely, the alternative hypothesis says that it does make a difference. Now, you'll notice it's non-directional. It doesn't predict an increase or a decrease, what have you. It's just saying that it affects it. Fair enough. Let's set the decision criterion level. This was alpha of O5 two-tailed. So alpha of O5 two-tailed. I knew I'm looking for 2 red bars, if you will. And we have to use 120 degrees of freedom with this really high N of 144. Now, please ignore the obtained for a minute. I just had to stick that on there for later. That'll be step 4. But here goes. Now, where did I get that? Remember, it's 144 degrees of freedom. So in that case, I don't have that on the table. I don't have 143. So I just have to go to 120. I always round down. Now, you'll have to excuse me. The copy quality is poor, but this is 1.98. So it's alpha of O5, 2 tails, and the critical value is plus or minus 1.98. Got it. Now, you'll notice that's very close to 1.96. And before things get too serious, I'll import a better copy of this table. It looks terrible. I'm sorry. But yeah, it's definitely 1.98. So what I do then is collect the sample data and compute the sample statistics. A sample of 144 people known to have openness to experience shows a number of watching minutes of mean of 49 and standard deviation of 16. Let's do all the math. The estimated standard error, 16. The N, 144. 16 over radical 144. 16 over 12, 1.33. Like to go to 2 decimals. Our obtained value of T. T equals capital M minus mu divided by the estimated standard error, 49 minus 58 over 1.33, and I get negative 6.77. And it really doesn't matter that it's negative because this is two-tailed. I'm going to double check my math. Sure enough, it's negative 6.77. So what I do here is I reject the null hypothesis. Please accept or reject the null hypothesis, two-tailed, alpha of O5, and we reject. Look at here. Here are the 2 criticals. And really, I could have drawn that obtained value way the heck down the pike here. I just sort of decided to put it on the same graph. But it's off the charts. So what happened there? Well, we got a difference for people on openness to experience of 9 minutes. And it was amplified by the fact that we had a gigantic sample size. So this was a no-doubter. It appears to be the case that those people that subscribe to Netflix that happen to be open to experience indeed watch it a differing number of minutes, or we might even say fewer number of minutes. And what does openness to experience mean? People that are outdoorsy, they're trying new things, they're adventurous, they take risks. Would you ever go bungee jumping? Would you ever order steak tartare at the restaurant? You know, if you've got a tolerance for uncertainty like that, then in that case you would be described as having openness to experience. You're definitely up for those chancy events.